at-home workout with social distancing. I bought myself a jump rope, which I'm actually really excited about. I haven't been able to do cardio at all. When we came up to Chiang Mai initially, I was running on a treadmill at a gym down the way, and that's closed. Everything has closed, and I can't really run outside. So I got a jump rope, which I'm excited about, to kind of get a little bit of cardio type stuff going. I'm kind of starting to feel the like laying around all day in the house, which is not that different from what I do between training. When I'm in regular training, I have 2 very heavy training sessions in a day, and between I'm doing work for the website and for patrons, 8 limbs, all this type of stuff, which is lying in my bed doing work and voiceover and stuff like that, but it's a much bigger proportion of my time now. Kevin and I are getting a lot done, which is really amazing, but I definitely am feeling this kind of like gross, not getting enough sweat on type of thing, and I really want to be hitting things right now. I think it's kind of cool that my situation is the same situation that I think a lot of people are in, which is that you have 0 equipment, like you have nothing. Some people are very lucky, they have like pads and maybe like a at-home gym, like small stuff, a little bit of weights, or like maybe a heavy bag or some pads that they can play with their roommate or their brother or whoever they live with. I got nothing, so today I'm gonna kick the wall maybe a little bit just to like feel a little bit of contact, but I'm super missing sparring and like hitting pads and making contact and stuff like that. So jump rope is gonna be like a slight reintroduction into like a little bit of heavier stuff for me. But yeah, I'm gonna still do high rep because that's been working really well for me, and it doesn't require really anything. And I can feel how doing it all the time is going to make my elbows and my knees just kind of come out without me thinking about it. I started to feel that with my kicks, actually. Like, I had such a hang up about my kicks for a really long time, and then my trainer crew knew that Petron Rung was just making me kick fucking endlessly. Like, he was doing burns, which is this high rep thing. He was not like, Sylvie, learn how to bring kicks into your style. Like, it wasn't like that at all. He was just making me kick all the time. And my kicks started to come out kind of in a natural way, like feeling them coming out of my movements and stuff. And when I first came here to Chiang Mai and was working with Karahat, I could not believe how many elbows I was throwing at him. I think he couldn't believe how many elbows I was throwing at him either. So that's one of the things about high repetition that I really like, and so that's one of the things that in my quarantine working on high repetition, when I finally get back to live training and sparring and things like that, all of this work that I've been putting in with that high repetition, I believe will be presenting itself kind of to a surprise to all of us. It'll be like, Sylvie went to knee and elbow camp or something, so we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna start with the jump rope, mostly because I'm really excited about it, not because I really feel like I need to warm up or anything like that. But I will put a timer on that. I think I'll do 3 minutes. I feel like 3 minutes is good. See if anyone's here. See if you guys have questions. Hey Carol, miss you. Oh, guys. I was just blah-blahing at you for a solid amount of time with the camera facing the wrong direction. I don't know why it went that way, but everything I just said, hopefully you guys get to totally check out on. I'm gonna do a set of elbows and a set of knees, and then I'm gonna skip rope again. Sorry. I am technically not always all there. Check now that I'm not sure Now I've got total paranoia about whether this is facing the right way. Okay. Yay. Got my coins that I used to count my sets because I forget. Skip rope again. Got a pace today. A little bit of a pace. Oh, I'm already breaking my jump rope. So strong. One thing I want to mention is that when I was skipping rope with Sagat was like, keep your chin tucked when you jump rope. He was like, basically practice your form while you're jumping rope, so I felt my head floating there. Made me remember Sagat. Hear his voice in my head sometimes. How feel? He said to let your head kind of bounce. Right, so you're not like keeping tension in it, keep it like this. You kind of let it bob. He had me going forward and backward. I don't have a lot of space, so I don't know how much I'll do that. Already feeling the strength in my ankles. Axel Rose got nothing. I don't like my snake down. Shut up on my knees. Alright. Straight into it. We got a pace today. We got a like cabin fever pace today. talking. That's great. Michelle knows who Axel is. That's awesome. So, thinking about just now when I was talking about Sagat made this point. When you're jumping rope, you don't want to have the tension of having your head like this, and you don't want to have the tension of having your head like that. So you're basically like letting your head kind of bob. This is something that I'm doing with Kevin right now in the behind the scenes, not filmed part where we're working on my Gansak block, is that when I'm doing like elbow sparring with Caro, or if I'm doing like a lot of blocking, I tend to kind of like do this with my neck, which is really, really not good. You want to have this like tucked like this. Something that Krunu, he's like, just jab me, and I'll, you know, like jab at him, and he just kind of like hits it with the top of his head. Nung Napapon, who's in the Muay Thai Library, he was a boxing champion. Amazing. He has the same thing. He's like block with the like crown of your head here because it doesn't hurt to get hit, but you can actually hurt someone's hand with it. Is that there's this like chin tuck thing that I struggle with, because with the tension of like wanting to see someone, you end up like putting yourself in this terrible posture and like kind of elbowing like this. It hurts. Like you can totally mess up your neck. I had some serious pain like 10, 12 days ago when I was still training with Karahat and with Tanadet. It was just totally cranked up, and it's from that posture. So something that Kevin said that was a really good like visual for how to get my chin tucked without having tension in it is it's like someone just cut the string, right? So your head is up and someone just cuts the string and it just kind of like goes like this. There's no tension in keeping my chin down, which is why it's similar to what Sagat was saying, so that if I start jumping, because it's not tense, it's gonna kind of like bobble with it. I feel a bit like a Titan, like Attack on Titans, where they're kind of like floppy and wobbly, which isn't all that bad. Like I feel a little bit dangerous with my head flopping like that. But so I'm trying to get that same feeling of just like cut the cord so that I can see, but I'm relaxed and my chin is tucked. I'm trying to get that same feeling in the rest of my like work with blocks and things like this. So practicing it while I'm doing something super repetitive like skipping rope. This is something that Dieselnoy, Ajahn Dieselnoy, if you guys have been watching these videos and if you're going to spend any time with me for the rest of my life, I will talk a lot about Dieselnoy because he's just taught me so much and I listen to every single word he says. He made a point about not wasting your time when you're running. He's like, runs can be very boring and you can, as a fighter, kind of check out and like just get your mileage done. And he's like, you're wasting your time if you're doing that. He said that while you run, you should be using your brain to, one, challenge yourself. So like if you're having a hard time on the run, be like, I am making myself stronger than anyone I will face. I'm training harder than anyone I will face, and you have to believe that. My brother, who is a wrestler, John, told me the same thing. He's like, wrestlers train harder than anyone. And as a wrestler, I believed that I trained harder than anyone in that group. So not only that, but then also in your head, you can use like visualization of like becoming champion at Lumpini, or of like how you would solve a certain opponent, or any of those things. So instead of like checking out when you're doing high reps or runs, or kind of like junk miles is what they call them when you're a runner, they're not junk miles if you're using your brain at the same time. Like they're not super important in terms of what you're doing, actually just putting one foot in front of the other. But when it's not complicated like that, when you don't have someone pressuring you who's like your pad man or a sparring partner or Caro throwing elbows at me, when you don't have pressure, you can really use that time to go on like brain gym situations. I actually just did a technique vlog yesterday that we called Mind Gym. So check that out, definitely. It's about how to start visualizing, like how I had a really hard time when I was trying to like visualize, which is so important for mental training. But I found ways to realize that I know how to visualize, and I'm actually quite good at it, and like how to build it up. You can watch that technique vlog, it's quite good. But that's what I'm doing now, doing a bunch of like high rep menial task type of stuff. 2 of those. Max was just watching me and Sagat this afternoon. That is awesome. Sagat is for sure the best private in Thailand. He is just incredible, and he teaches so much in like such a compact amount of time. He just like, he has a very like attention to detail, but not overly minute. Like everything that he makes an adjustment to makes like quite a big change. It's like you tweak right here and the entire machine gets a little bit smoother. You tweak over here, even faster, even smoother, even more power. It's really cool. Talked about my neck, and then when I went into my elbows, I completely forgot about it. That will happen. Happens all the time. You're like, I'm gonna do this, and then you go to do the thing, and you completely forget the thing that you're gonna focus on. But I remember by the time I got to my knees, so I was like bobbing with my knees. This is something you can also practice in everything that you do, is intentionality. So I talk about the elbows being important because it's repetition, and so I want to do the thing with my neck, and then I forget about it when I do that. That's okay. It's all right that I forgot. It's the same thing when you go into your corner and your corner man tells you something and you're like, right, and then you go into the fight and like completely forget what he said to you. Happens all the time. But to avoid that happening as much, practice it in this situation where you're like, I forgot about the neck, so now everything I do, be like, yeah, the neck. Do the neck. Too many. Ankles are already stronger. They're not, they're just warmed up, but still, it's good, I can feel it. I believe they're getting stronger. Apparently that comes undone on that one side. while I was doing that. One is that in the same way that you can like let your head use visualization, or like I'm so hardcore, or like I'm training harder than anyone, or like this is how I solve this kind of person, you can let your brain do things while you're doing super repetitive things. You can also mess with the part that is less, like my hands have to be doing this. You can do the like crisscross thing or whatever you want to do with your hands, but you can also change your feet to make it like a little bit engaging. You know, you can go like a little skier back and forth, or like this, go on one leg, do high knees, all of these things that they say in boxing that skipping rope is really good for your footwork. Why that's interesting to me is that you're not doing that footwork anywhere. So this is not footwork for Muay Thai or boxing or anything. Instead, it's teaching you to be up on your toes, which means that any kind of different feelings you can get on your toes, like, wow, what is my balance like when I go wider? What is my balance like when I come really narrow? What is my balance like when I come up like this? You can feel all those different ranges just in the balls of your feet while you're skipping rope, which I find really, really cool because you can like mess with it and be like, okay, what did that feel like? You can also do that without a rope. I went and bought a rope because they have it at the plastic place, which I'm really grateful for. I was like 50-50 on whether they'd have it. If there's no jump rope, you know how people can like shred air guitar? You can totally shred jump rope. You guys, if I turned the camera back to the wall, other than the sound not being there, and told you I was jumping rope, you'd believe I'm jumping rope, because it's basically the same thing, like this. So even if you don't have a jump rope, you can totally fake it and work on your footwork that way as well. And just one point, this is like the 2.5 in what I was saying, is that in messing with your feet and messing with footwork and what does that feel like if my stance is wider, what does it feel like when it gets really narrow, something that I think is my favorite thing that I learned from Samark's older brother, his name is Kongtorani, very good fighter, he's also one of the top, they were champions together. Something that he showed me, because he kept making fun of my stance, I call it blading. I'm basically like putting my back foot too close and behind my front foot. And so he showed me how to calibrate it. I put my front foot where it should be. My back foot comes to the middle of my front foot and then out and back a little bit. So he basically had me doing this little like calibration all the time. And I got in the habit of doing that every time I could feel that I was really bladed. And that's just me playing with my stance. It's not footwork to do that in a fight, but it taught me to like start to recognize when my feet were too close together and being like, okay, that feels better. Like I would throw my cross from here or not be able to throw my cross because it felt like it was coming from so far away. And because it feels like it has to cross so much distance, I literally just wouldn't throw it. And I was like, hey, okay, it wants to come straight out of that. So that's why playing with footwork is actually really cool. All right, cool. People from all over. Get back into my elbows. Something with my elbows today that I'm totally feeling is that I am not relaxed in the way that I want to be, in the way that Yogkun Pan really makes a point about being relaxed in high repetition elbows. But I can feel where those tensions are, and even if I'm not really able to release those tensions today, knowing where they are, just being like, all right, it's totally in my shoulder, or like, okay, I can feel it in the top of my leg, just knowing that is progress. Even if I do it again tomorrow, it's still progress. Just being able to see it or feel it is still progress. When I do these ones, I'm reminded of Hippie. If you guys watch the Hippie session in the Muay Thai Library, he has this like slick back elbow thing. It's like, this dude, Hippie, Singmani, is just so slick. He's got this like, this is how his like elbows work, but he's slashing you up at the same time. Pat Cummings, your neighbors downstairs must love you. I believe I do not have neighbors downstairs, happily, but we love the neighbors upstairs who like to rearrange their furniture at very strange hours. It's this like ghost sound of like dragging a chair across the room or something. When I was in college, we had a guy who lived above us who had this giant Rottweiler. Like, I'm 100 pounds. This thing must have been like 150. It was so big, and you'd hear it like dragging a chain across the floor. It was like the most intense sound, just this like rip across the floor. And occasionally we'd meet him in the elevator, and he wanted us to be like really afraid of his Rottweiler, but it was like the sweetest, dumbest dog that when the owner was facing that way and the dog was staring at me, I could like kind of give him a little pat in the elevator. He was sweet. He's very, very big. I'm gonna shadow box a little bit instead of skipping rope for this one, and then I'll skip rope at the end of everything. Claire asked me, who has been your best or favorite fight with? Oh, who has been my favorite person to fight with? I don't know. I've had a lot of rematches, which means that I kind of have relationships that have grown out of fighting the same person a number of times. Like, there's this woman I fought, Nang Hong, I think 8 times, and I used to hate fighting her. I hated fighting her because it was hard and it was always just this like trying to get into the right area of fighting her, and she's big and good and skilled and can make me look like an asshole. And so I think what was so hard about her is that she had the skill set and the fight style that would really draw out my self-consciousness. And so if I let her get into that area, it was really, really hard for me. But like over the years that we've been fighting and the number of times that we've fought, it's amazing that I say I hate fighting her, because I usually win. Every time except one, I've pulled out the win with her. But recently, like very recently, I've started to actually really respect her as a fighter. I've watched her fight other people, and oh my gosh, she's so good. Like, it's incredible how the way that she fights me and the way she fights other people has this kind of malleability to it. And I really respect the dignity with which she fights. She'll make eye contact, and she's very, like, when she gets put on the ground, she just comes up and she's like, I'm gonna fucking catch you when I put her on the ground. So Nang Hong, while I would have said, and probably might still say if I get matched against her, that I hate fighting her, I actually really like. I actually really like my fights with Nang Hong. I'm very proud of my win against Ito, who is the Japanese phenom. She's a world champion in Japan. We only fought one time, but that was like a huge win for me. I really respect Loma as a fighter. I've fought her 4 times. I've never been able to beat her, but we've both changed a lot as fighters. And Tanan Chinook is always a really good fight for me. She's just so good. Like, she's always the right kind of challenge, because she's bashed the shit out of my leg before, but overall she doesn't really hurt that bad given our size disparity. But the challenges she puts in front of me are really good. Like, every time I fight her, as hard as it is, and I've beat her, I think, twice, as hard as it is to fight her, I'm always better on the other side of it. So I think maybe Nang Hong, Tanan Chinook, and Ito have been like really big, good favorite fights for me. But I have 264, so there's a lot of them that in the context of what fight they were, I'm like, that one was incredible. And it's hard to like pick a favorite, because none of them are that important, and yet all of them are really precious because they relate to each other and they relate to me at different times in my development. So it's a good question, but it's a really hard question to answer. And I saw another one that was asking about what's with the knees on the wall. If you watch the first 2 days of this at-home workout, I talk a lot about these knees, but these are from Dislonoy and Chumuk Pet. You usually do them in like the corner of the ring, but you can do them against a wall, which is one of the reasons I'm doing those against the wall, is that I don't have a ring, I don't have anything really to hold on to, but because they come up so high, rather than it being like a skip knee, you can do it against the wall. So given the circumstances and equipment and space that I have, those knees, because they're so high, are what I'm choosing to do in my burns here. Oh yeah, Kevin reminded me, John Kwan. This is one of the reasons that, well, these are many reasons why John Kwan should be on that list of my favorite fights and fighters, is that the first time I fought her was in Karat at Kevin and my favorite stadium, Suranari, I think it's called. It's in Nakhon Ratchasima, Karat, and it's a military stadium. Just as a venue, just like as a place, it is the coolest stadium. There's so many gamblers, just the way it's set up, like the feeling of the space and all of these things is really cool. So I go up there. I have no idea who my opponent is. I just go get in the ring. They maybe tell me her name or not. I have to like find the program so that I can keep it for my records, because it's important for me. And we find out that she's bigger than me by a couple of kilos, but I end up winning this fight, I think maybe even by knockout in one of the rounds. But it was a very good win for me overall, regardless of who I was fighting. It was a really good win for me. After that fight, she was really upset that she had lost. And it was kind of like jarring to me. My opponents don't usually have like a really hard time after fights. But I saw her afterwards and she was really upset. And it wasn't until after the fact that Kevin and I found out that I broke a like 16 fight winning streak for her. And she's kind of like a local legend champion. She went to Japan to fight for a title. She's like a really well-established fighter. And she losing to me when I didn't know who she was really good for me because it didn't put any of the pressure in my head that I was going to go fight this person with all of these accomplishments. But we ended up fighting after that, like in a rematch, and she just beat the shit out of me in that second one. It wasn't actually beating the shit out of me, but she got into a dominant winning position in round 4, where it was really hard for me to overtake it. And if I had had the like, fuck you, I'm coming at it, I totally could have taken over. But she, like I was talking about Nang Hong, how she can like get in my head and find those insecurities and kind of pull on them. Jung Kwan put me in a place in that second fight where I just could not do what I needed to do to like pull myself up in round 5. So I lost to her in that second fight. And it was years later that we ended up fighting each other again, almost completely the same way in the first one, where it's like, I don't know who I'm fighting, I'll just see who it is when I get there. But I found out, I think like on the ride down, that it was going to be Jung Kwan, and it was like, in my head, the loss that I had to her, not even thinking to myself the win that I had had against her the first time that was such a big deal. And I ended up fighting her in Hua Hin twice. So we fought 4 times, and I've won 3 of those. And the last 2 I'm really proud of because they really show how much I've grown and changed as a fighter, given how we fought the first 2 times and how we fought the second 2 times. And she just like, taking it away from how I feel about fighting her, or like I can beat her or I can't beat her, just as a fighter, if I were like watching fighters in the world of who's great, Jung Kwan is like one of the top female fighters in the world. Just the vocabulary of her technique, her ability to use timing, and her comfort between things. Like her, in Thai they call it eyes, they're like, he has good eyes. Her ability to see things and move around things and like pull from different weapons and opportunities. She did this like jumping knee into my face in our first fight down in Hua Hin, the one that was like the 3rd fight, but the first one back after a really long gap between. She's a really amazing fighter. I would fight her all the time if I could. She's still bigger than me, but the way that I've developed as a fighter, fighting bigger fighters all the time, and kind of like my style developing to be able to handle that, I'm able to handle her in a way that I wasn't before. But, oh, I really like Jung Kwan. That was a very good recommendation by Kevin. Reminder. Yeah, I don't take suggestions for my workouts. Thank you, but I'm doing my workout. So I have 1 more set of elbows and knees. I'm going to skip rope, and then I'm actually going to do the push-ups, sit-ups, and plank that Kara will be familiar with that I do at my gym. I usually don't keep you guys on for my sit-ups and push-ups, but today I'm going to do it. We'll see how that goes. Alright. 1 more set of each. Remembering the neck. Forgot. Back to it. So this is going to be how we end training at my gym. Try to go down a little bit. All right. So basically how this works is it's all sit-ups, push-ups, plank. You do a minute of sit-ups, then there's 30 seconds for the push-ups, minute for the plank, and another 30 seconds for the push-ups before you start again. So anytime it's a minute, it's either push-ups or plank. Sit-ups or plank. And if it's 30 seconds, it's going to be push-ups. I have not done this in a long time. So I am anticipating that this is going to be difficult for me. And it's good for me to anticipate that because then I'm not taken off guard or judging myself for it. So we'll get started. If you guys want to do this with me, I'll be keeping time, but just start. Do any kind of sit-ups that you want to do. It doesn't matter what they are, whatever kind you like. For a minute. Push-ups. Plank. I have like birds chirping as my music for this. And push-ups again. If you hurt your shoulder, like me, instead of push-ups, you can occasionally switch to mountain climbers for the 30 seconds to give your shoulder a break. I try to alternate between the two so that I'm still getting my push-ups in, but not aggravating my shoulder too much. This is also good for your abs. All right, that's one round. Back into sit-ups. Any sit-ups will do. My floor is really hard, which is why I'm not doing any traditional crunch sit-ups. I don't have like a mat. push-ups or mountain climbers, whichever one you're doing. All right, last round, sit-ups. All right, last push-ups, we actually end on the plank. And plank last minute. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. That's my workout for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and helping me do that. It's very good. There are all kinds of things that you can create and come up with in your at-home training. Be creative with it, mess around with stuff. Get ideas from tons of people. Tons of people are doing these at-home workouts right now. Michelle, is it 1 minute sit-ups, 30-second push-ups, and 1 minute plank? Yes, and then another 30-second push-ups before starting the process over again. Oh, Kara did them with me. That's awesome. All right. So, right now, tons of people are putting up all kinds of different workout videos. Some people are putting up the kind that are like very organized, like do this many of these, this many of these, do 3 sets of them. Like the very last thing that we just did is like totally a rep set thing kind of workout. There are lots of those that you can go get ideas from. You can go get ideas from watching people who are just putting up their own workouts. I'm putting up my own workouts but just talking a lot in between because I get excited and I like talking about why I'm doing the things that I'm doing or like what thoughts I have about the techniques that I'm working on in that process. So take from everybody, like borrow from everybody, and it doesn't have to be a workout video. You can just go watch the Watch With Me that Kevin and I did of Chimok Pet versus Sang Tianoi and look at what they're doing. Be like, what the hell is he doing? I'm going to steal that and I'm going to work on that in my apartment. You can do things that you've seen and you can do things in your own space that are kind of like altered versions of what you would be doing at the gym. Like I said when I first started, I want to kick something and knee something with resistance so bad, like just a belly pad or a person. I just want this kind of like contact impact. And I'll get back to that eventually, but right now, given our circumstances, find ways around that. Find ways to work on it in your apartment, in your home, in your small space. The advice that was given to me about using the corner, by all means, you have a corner, you figure out how you want to play with your corner. I've been thinking about hitting my fridge for a couple of hours now, so I might think about ways in which I can use the fridge as this little bit of contact resistance that I'm talking about, and I'm probably going to go teep some trees later to have a little bit of resistance as well. So stay safe. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for asking me questions and hanging out with me and giving me kind of like a community within the room so that I'm not just like sweating by myself. And yeah, if you guys have the time and inclination, go check out that technique vlog that I did yesterday about visualization. This is something you can do literally not even leaving your bed. If you're sitting on the couch and it's one of those days when you've been inside for so long and you just can't even be bothered to get up and like do push-ups, don't sit on the couch and practice visualizing those push-ups instead. That technique vlog is on YouTube. It's 8 minutes long. It's actually quite a long one, and then I have a longer version. It's about 20 minutes long for my patrons. So if you're a patron, go watch the long version. It has lots of additional advice and ways to progress past the beginning stage of just the initial techniques of honing your visualization. Kevin and I are getting a lot of content done in this quarantine situation, which is really nice. So I just want to say thank you to my patrons, because my patrons are really who make it possible for us to not only create the content that we create, but also motivate us to keep pushing to find new and inventive creations to put into content as well. Like, we're never just doing all the same thing. We're always evolving, and we would not be able to do that without the generosity of my patrons. So thank you guys so much, and I'll stop talking. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much, and take care of yourselves. Yeah.